I sometimes hear that I write articles and make videos to promote products that we make. One even said that I wrote my knife deburring book to promote turmeric. It would be insulting if not so stupid. It is exactly the other way around. We stumble across a problem and develop a solution for our workshop. With time we start making it for others. It would be simply unfair to tell people about a solution to a problem and not give it to them. The HONING coolant is another such product, the solution against thermal stress that can ruin heat treatment of a blade. We need it because we deburr at speeds where overheat may happen.
Our honing coolant is used for diamond, CBN and conventional honing wheels and belts, paper wheels, high RPM diamond and CBM grinding wheels and belts, common sanding belts and discs, compatible with the grit, base / backing, resin, rubber, leather, paper, cloth, steel, aluminium and nickel, not compatible with felt and stone wheels.
Apply by briefly tapping the wheel belt rotating at full speed for one full rotation. In a typical grinder it is 1/5 of a second. This is a paper wheel with diamonds. As to the workshop, tests have shown that sharpening on the coarse belt does not overheat the edge. Honing on the fine belt is different. It can heat the edge to over-tempering levels, and the edge will soften. We've seen this in earlier tests, and will investigate in the coming experiments. Honing on the fine belt, therefore, requires a coolant. This is how the applied coolant looks. See patches of whitish stuff over the diamonds. As we start honing, it will melt and spread evenly. The melted coolant mixes with the diamonds into a slurry that hones and polishes. This compound not only cools, it also absorbs the ground particles, the swarf, removing it from the belt or wheel as you hone. In other words, it also works as an anti-clogging agent, keeping your wheel or belt clean. Swarf that accumulates on the wheel or belt and turns it black contributes to overheating and lessens its honing efficiency. Removing the swarf with the honing coolant counters that. Having worked the blade, remove the residue of the coolant with swarf in it from the blade with chirps. Reapply as soon as your fingers on the blade start feeling warm. To expose more coolant, rotate this bottom wheel clockwise. To prevent cross-contamination between grits, use a separate coolant stick for each wheel and belt.
But do not use the coolant with your finest finishing wheel, belt. It works down to 0.5 micron abrasive, but not finer. Goal of this experiment is to see how the HONING coolant affects the deburring process
and whether it affects it in any adverse way. We do not study heating in this experiment. I won't comment on the sparking, but as you can tell by the direction of sparks, one side sharpens with the belt rotation, while the other side against it. Sharpening against the belt rotation gives a shorter burr that is easier to remove, so I must remember to always do the last stroke into the belt, on the side of the belt where the sparks go up.
Finishing on the workshop fine belt creates a long feather burr. This feather shows bad on the sharpness tester, and as we start cutting, falls over and sharpness of the knife drops drastically. You cannot feel feather burr with your finger. You cannot see naked eye unless you know what to look for. I tried doing the last stroke into the belt on this side, edge leading, in a hope it will reduce the feather burr. As you see, it didn't go away. I honestly do not understand why workshop deems deburring completed at this step, at the fine belt.
Now your outdoor knife is sharp as new and ready for your next outdoor adventure.
On comprenait pas ce que vous disiez. Qu'est-ce que vous disiez
Other people also see worsened sharpness on the tester after the fine belt, caused by the feather burr.
All right. 3 passes per side on the finest belt, and now let's see where we are sharpness wise. Now, one thing with the blade grinding attachment with the standard set of 5 belts that it comes with is it is a little bit difficult to get the burr, the very fine burr off of the finest belt. So I suspect that we are not going to be too far ahead of the 279 starting sharpness, but what we've done is reset the apex so that it's at a nice shape. So let's see, first of all, get here. Yeah. Now that's going to look bad. It's going to look like actually I've made it duller by running it through the and secret weapon here to complement the Canyon Elite is my. All right. And let's see where we are sharpness wise after 3 belts on the blade grinding attachment and then a leather strop. 146, nice. So nearly twice as sharp as we were, and now we've got a really nice.
In our sharpening on the workshop, after the fine belt, we complete deburring on a hanging strop to remove the feather burr and wire edge. Several years ago I did the research, and we know now that 10 strokes alternating sides remove the wire edge and the feather burr, of course. No need to do more than that. This is a paper wheel with autosol. Autosol dries out quickly into a white powder on your wheel, and the paper wheel with dry autosol tends to heat the edge significantly. On paper wheels we use oil-based diamond paste. As the oil soaks and dries out, the wheel starts overheating the edge. The usual solution is to frequently reapply more and more diamond paste, which is not cost-effective, obviously. Using the coolant saves both the edge and your money.
Conclusions from the test data. This honing coolant has no negative effect on the end sharpness. In common knives, the only difference we see is a more pronounced, longer feather burr that we get after removing the main burr. This reflects in higher best numbers on the sharpness tester at this step of deburring. But as we remove the feather burr, the end sharpness is the same as in knives deburred without the coolant. Deburring on workshop belts goes better with the honing coolant. We see a smaller feather burr and a sharper end result. However, we see none of that in higher end knives and super steels. Comparison of the test results shows no appreciable difference between knives deburred with and without the coolant. These are of course just a few examples that we give in detail for the purpose of this video. We use this honing coolant in our sharpening workshop and have sharpened hundreds of knives, high-end and mainstream, honed at high RPM with conventional abrasives and diamonds, and see only beneficial effect.
By our testing, we conclude that knives deburred with our coolant come as sharp as all our knives. We've picked a formulation that cools the honing and at the same time does not interfere with diamonds, CBN, autosol and common abrasives, does not impede their effectiveness. Common waxes down their honing effectiveness. Our coolant does not. Our honing coolant is odorless and contains no hazardous substances.
As a matter of fact, it is good for your skin because of the emu oil in its composition.
We say to keep it out of reach of children, not because it is hazardous, but because infants explore the world with their mouth and the coolant stick looks attractive to them. Store in a cool place, melts at 55 Celsius, 130 Fahrenheit. We've tested that our coolant formulation prevents overheating in honing, not impeding the grinding and honing process. But it is up to you whether to use or not to use it in your sharpening, to think or not to think.
Be or not to be, to free or not to free, to crawl or not to crawl, to think or not to think. Some choose to dismember your rise and your fall. Fuck all those pearls.